There's a feeling you've been carrying, maybe for weeks, maybe for months, maybe for years. A quiet tension in your chest, like something inside you is pressing against a door, trying to get out. You can't always name it, but it's there when you wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling. It's there when you look around at your life and think, this should be enough. So why isn't it? You're not depressed. You're not ungrateful, but something deep within you knows that the life you're living right now is not the life you're living right now, is not the life you were meant for. And that knowing, it won't leave you alone. If that resonates with you, stay here. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't motivation. It isn't positive thinking. It isn't another voice telling you to wake up at 5 a.m. and grind harder. This comes from one of the most brilliant minds in the history of psychology, Carl Jung. And what he discovered about moments, exactly like the one you're in right now, it might change how you see everything. Jung had a word for what's happening to you. He didn't call it a crisis. He didn't call it anxiety. He called it the stirring of the self, capital S. And he said it was one of the most important things that could ever happen to a human being. Not because it feels good. It doesn't. But because it means something in your psyche has matured to the point where it refuses to stay small any longer. Your old life is becoming too tight, like a coat you've outgrown. And that discomfort you feel, that restlessness, that strange urgency with no clear direction, that is not a sign that something is wrong with you. According to Jung, it is the signal that your time, your real time, has finally arrived. And today, I'm going to show you why. Before we go further, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Tell me, have you been feeling this stirring? That sense that something is about to shift, but you can't yet see what? I want to hear your story. Now let's begin. And we're going to begin in a place that might surprise you. We're going to begin with death. Not physical death, something stranger, the death of who you used to be. Think back to a version of yourself from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the things that mattered to you then, the goals you chased, the people you tried to impress, the image you worked so hard to maintain. Now ask yourself honestly, does that version of you still fit? Or does it feel like looking at a photograph of someone you used to know, someone familiar but no longer you? If that old self feels distant, hollow, almost fictional, then congratulations. Something inside you has already begun to die. And Jung would tell you that this is not tragedy. This is initiation. Jung studied transformation his entire life. Not the shallow kind you see on magazine covers, not new habits or morning routines or vision boards. He studied the deep structural shifts that happen in the human psyche when a person is ready to become who they actually are. And he noticed something fascinating. Every single transformation, every real one, begins with a kind of death. The old identity has to crack open. The mask has to fall. The story you've been telling yourself about who you are has to stop making sense. And that exact moment when your old story stops working, that is where you are right now. You might be feeling it as confusion, as a loss of motivation for things that used to excite you, as a strange emptiness in the middle of a life that looks fine from the outside. Your job is okay. Your relationships are okay. Everything is okay. But okay has started to feel like a prison. And you don't know why. Jung knew why. He said that the psyche has its own timeline. It doesn't care about your plans, your 5-year goals, your carefully constructed life. When the self is ready to emerge, it will shake the foundations of everything you've built. Not to destroy you, but to rebuild you. Not to punish you, but to free you. And the first thing it destroys is the false self, the version of you that was constructed by other people's expectations, the version that learned early on what was acceptable, what was rewarded, what kept you safe. That version served you well. It got you through childhood, through school, through the early years of adulthood. But now it's suffocating you, and your soul knows it, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. This is what Jung called the death of the persona, and it is one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can go through, because from the outside, nothing has changed. You still go to work, you still smile at the right moments, you still answer the phone and say you're fine, but inside, a revolution is happening. Inside, the ground beneath your identity is shifting, and no one around you can see it. That loneliness, that sense of going through something enormous while the world carries on as if nothing is happening, that is part of the process. Jung would say that the deeper the transformation, the more invisible it is to others. Because it's not happening in your circumstances, it's happening in your soul. So if you feel alone right now, if you feel like no one understands what you're going through, hear this: you are not alone. You are simply ahead of schedule. Your psyche is moving faster than your life, and eventually your life will catch up. But first, you have to let the old self die. You have to stop resuscitating a version of you that has already expired. And I know how terrifying that sounds, because if you're not that person anymore, then who are you? If the goals don't matter, if the image doesn't fit, if the story doesn't work, then what's left? Jung's answer was breathtaking in its simplicity. What's left is you, the real you, the one who existed before the conditioning, before the masks, before the compromises, the one who has been waiting quietly, patiently, in the deepest chamber of your psyche for this exact moment. And this exact moment, this is the threshold. Let's talk about what happens at the threshold, because this is where most people get stuck. This is where the transformation either deepens or stalls. And understanding this might be the most important thing you hear today. Jung studied myths, fairy tales, and religious texts from every culture on earth. And he found a pattern so consistent, so universal, that he believed it was wired into the human psyche itself. He called these patterns archetypes. And one of the most powerful archetypes is the threshold. In every great story there comes a moment when the hero stands at the edge of the known world. Behind them is everything familiar, safe, predictable. Ahead of them is the unknown, the dark forest, the underworld, the ocean with no visible shore. And the hero hesitates. Of course they hesitate, because crossing that threshold means leaving behind everything that wants to find them. You are standing at that threshold right now, and the hesitation you feel, that push and pull between the old life and something you can't yet name, that is not weakness, that is the archetype moving through you. You are living a pattern as old as humanity itself. But here's what Jung observed, and this is critical. The threshold cannot be crossed through willpower alone. You cannot think your way across it. You cannot plan your way across it. You cannot plan your way across it. You cannot force the transformation by reading more books or watching more videos or making more. The threshold is crossed through surrender, through allowing, through trusting a process that your rational mind will never fully understand. Jung put it this way: the experience of the self is always a defeat for the ego. Your ego, that part of you that wants to control, predict, and manage everything, it will resist this crossing with everything it has. It will tell you that you're being foolish, that you should play it safe, that this restlessness is just a phase and you should go back to normal. The ego wants to survive. And the transformation you're being called toward requires the ego to step aside, not to disappear, but to stop being the one in charge. Think of it like this. Your ego has been driving the car your entire life. It chose the routes. It avoided the detours. It kept you on paved roads. But now something deeper, something wiser is asking to take the wheel, and your ego is terrified because it doesn't know where this new driver is going. It can't see the destination on any map. That terror you sometimes feel, that free-falling sensation when you think about your future, that is your ego realizing it's no longer in control. And that is exactly what needs to happen. Jung saw this surrender not as giving up, but as the highest form of courage, because it requires you to trust something you cannot see, cannot prove, cannot explain to anyone else. It requires you to trust the intelligence of your own psyche, to believe that the same force that grew you from a single cell into a breathing, thinking, feeling human being might actually know what it's doing. And I want you to sit with that for a moment. The same intelligence that built your body without any instruction from you, that healed your wounds, that kept your heart beating through every night of sleep, that intelligence is now trying to rebuild your inner world. And all it's asking is that you stop fighting it. So the question is not, how do I make this transformation happen? The question is, what am I still holding on to that's preventing it from happening on its own? What are you clinging to? What identity? What relationship? What belief about yourself? What outdated story? What comfortable cage? Jung said, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. So don't condemn the old you. Don't hate the life you built, but recognize with honesty and compassion that it has served its purpose, and now something new is trying to be born. And that something, that new thing stirring inside you, let's talk about what it actually is. Jung called it the self. Not the self with a lowercase, not your personality, not your preferences, not your social media bio. The self with a capital S, the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and dark, known and unknown. Everything you've shown the world and everything you've hidden from it. The self is the blueprint of your wholeness. It is the pattern that your entire life has been slowly, sometimes painfully, trying to fulfill. And here is the part that changes everything. The self has been there since the beginning. Before your first memory, before your first wound, before anyone told you who you should be, the self was already whole, already complete, already waiting. What happened is that life covered it up. Layer by layer, experience by experience, the self got buried under expectations, fears, adaptations, and compromises. You learned to be good instead of real, polite instead of honest, acceptable instead of alive. And each of those adaptations, while necessary for survival, moved you one step further from the center of who you actually are. But the self never disappeared. It has been sending you signals your entire life. Those moments of inexplicable longing, that feeling when you hear a piece of music and something inside you aches for a life you've never lived. That strange pull towards something you can't name. Something that feels more real than anything in your visible world. Those are not random emotions. Those are messages from the self, letters from the deepest part of your psyche saying, I'm still here, come find me. And what's happening to you now? This restlessness, the sense that your time has arrived, this is the self knocking louder than ever before. It's done whispering. It's done sending subtle hints. It is banging on the door of your consciousness, demanding to be let in, demanding to be lived. Jung said that the goal of human life is not happiness, not success, not comfort. The goal is wholeness, to become the complete expression of who you were meant to be. And wholeness requires you to integrate everything, not just the pretty parts, not just the parts that get applause, but the messy parts, the dark parts, the parts you've locked away in shame. And that brings us to the shadow. You knew we'd get here eventually, because you can't talk about transformation without talking about what lives in the dark. The shadow is Jung's term for everything you've rejected about yourself. Everything you pushed down, denied, hid, or pretended didn't exist. It's the anger you were told was inappropriate, the ambition you were told was selfish, the sensitivity you were told was weakness, the wildness you were told was unacceptable, the desires you were told was too much. Every time someone said, "Don't be like that," a piece of you broke off and fell into the shadow. Every time you were punished for being yourself, another fragment dropped into the dark. And over time, this accumulated into something enormous, a vast underground reservoir of unlived life. And here's the part that most people don't realize. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your unlived potential. It contains not just your wounds, but your power. Not just your pain, but your passion. Not just what you fear, but what you most deeply desire. Jung said, the shadow is 90% gold. 90%. That means most of what you've been running from is actually what you need most. Think about that. The very qualities you've been ashamed of, the intensity, the emotion, the refusal to conform, the hunger for something more, those are not flaws. Those are pieces of your wholeness that have been living in exile. And your transformation, the one that's trying to happen right now, requires you to bring them home. But how? How do you face what you spent a lifetime avoiding? Not through force, not through some dramatic confrontation with your demons. Jung was more subtle than that. He said, the shadow is met through honesty, through noticing, through paying attention to the moments when you react too strongly, judge too quickly, or feel a surge of emotion that doesn't match the situation. Have you ever been disproportionately irritated by someone? Not mildly annoyed, but genuinely bothered in a way that surprised you? Jung would say, look there, that person is showing you something about yourself. The quality that triggers you is often the quality you've refused to own. The arrogance you despise in others might be the confidence you've never allowed yourself. The selfishness you judge might be the self-prioritization you desperately need. The loudness that annoys you might be the voice you've been suppressing for decades. This is shadow work, and it is not comfortable. It will take you into rooms of your psyche that haven't been aired out in years. You will find old grief, old rage, old shame that still carries the fingerprints of whoever put it there. And your first instinct will be to close the door and walk away. But if you stay, if you sit with what you find, something miraculous begins to happen. The energy that was locked in the shadow starts to become available to you. The vitality that was trapped in suppression starts to flow. You begin to feel things you haven't felt in years. A fierce aliveness, a raw creativity, a boldness that doesn't need permission. This is not new energy, it is your energy, returned from exile. And this is why the transformation feels so urgent right now. Your psyche is ready to reclaim what was lost. The self is calling its scattered pieces home. And every shadow you integrate, every rejected fragment you welcome back, you become more whole, more real, more you. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that darkness, that shadow, it is not your punishment. It is your treasure. Buried, yes. Guarded, yes. Guarded, yes. But treasure nonetheless, So be brave enough to dig. Now I want to talk about something that connects directly to this moment in your life. Because if you're feeling the stirring, if you're sensing that your time has arrived, then you're also probably feeling something else. A strange friction with the people around you. A growing distance between who you're becoming and who they expect you to be. This is one of the most painful parts of transformation, and nobody warned you about it. When you begin to change, really change, at the level of your psyche, the people around you will feel it. Even before you say a word, even before you change a single behavior, they will sense that something has shifted, and many of them will not like it. Not because they're bad people, but because your transformation threatens the unspoken agreements that held your relationships together. You agreed to be the reliable one, the easygoing one, the one who never makes waves. You agreed to laugh at the right jokes, nod at the right moments, and never ever outgrow the role you were assigned. And now you're breaking that agreement. Not with words, but with energy, with presence, with the quiet, unmistakable vibration of someone who is becoming someone new. Jung understood this deeply. He said that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, is always a rebellion against the collective. Not because you hate the collective, not because you want to be contrarian, but because the collective operates by consensus and your soul operates by truth. And when those two things conflict, something has to give. This is where guilt shows up. Enormous, paralyzing guilt. You feel guilty for outgrowing friends who have been loyal. You feel guilty for outgrowing friends who have been loyal. You feel guilty for wanting more than what your family considers enough. You feel guilty for changing the terms of relationships that other people depend on. And that guilt, if you're not careful, will pull you right back into the old pattern. It will convince you that transformation is selfish, that growth is betrayal, that the responsible thing to do is to stay small so that everyone else can remain comfortable. But Jung would challenge that with one piercing question. Whose life are you living? Because if you shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations, you don't just harm yourself, you harm the world. You withhold the contribution that only you can make. You deny the people around you the chance to know the real you, not the curated version, not the agreeable performance, but the actual living, breathing soul that you are. And here's something else Jung understood. The people who truly love you will eventually adjust. They might resist at first. They might feel threatened. They might even push back hard. But if the love is real, they will find their way to the new you. And if they can't, if they need you to stay small in order to stay in relationship with you, then that relationship was never built on truth. It was built on transaction, and you have outgrown it. That doesn't make the grief any less real. Letting go of relationships, even ones that have become cages, is one of the most painful experiences of human life. You will mourn. You will doubt yourself. You will wonder if you're making a terrible mistake. And in those moments, remember this. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who others want you to be. Not who fear tells you to be. But who your soul has been trying to become since the day you were born. And that becoming, that sacred unfolding, it cannot happen if you remain loyal to a version of yourself that no longer exists. Let the guilt come, feel it fully, and then let it pass through you. It is not your truth. It is the residue of the old programming. And you are being reprogrammed now by something infinitely wiser than guilt. There's another dimension to this transformation that we need to explore, because it's not just about who you're leaving behind. It's about who you're becoming. And the honest truth is, you don't know yet. You can't know yet. And that uncertainty, that vast open space of not knowing, is perhaps the hardest part of all. We live in a world that worships certainty, business plans, career trajectories, 5-year goals. We are taught from childhood that the responsible thing, the mature thing, is to know where you're going, to have a plan, to be able to answer the question, so what are you going to do? But Jung knew something that our culture desperately needs to hear. The most important transformations happen in the dark. They happen in the spaces between the old and the new, in the gap where the caterpillar has dissolved, but the butterfly has not yet formed. And in that gap, there is no certainty. There is only trust. Jung called this the liminal space, the threshold between worlds. And he said it is sacred, even though it feels terrifying, because it is in this space, and only in this space, that genuine transformation is possible. If you could see clearly where you're going, you'd just be rearranging the furniture of the old self. The fact that you can't see, the fact that everything feels unclear and groundless, that is actually the proof that something real is happening. Think of every great myth. The hero enters the dark forest, the initiate descends into the underworld. The seeker wanders the desert. In every case, the transformation happens precisely because the old maps are useless. The old strategies don't work. The old self cannot navigate this terrain. And so something new must emerge, not through planning, but through surrender, not through control, but through allowing. And this is where faith enters the picture, not necessarily religious faith, though it can be, but a deep, primal trust in the process of life itself. A trust that the dissolution you're experiencing is not random, that the confusion has a direction, that the darkness contains a dawn. Jung experienced this himself in his own life. There was a period of profound crisis, a time when his career was uncertain, his inner world was in chaos, and he felt utterly lost. He described it as a confrontation with the unconscious, a descent into the depths of his own psyche that lasted years. And from that descent, from that willingness to be lost, came the insights that would shape the entire field of psychology. He didn't discover the archetypes from a position of clarity. He discovered them from a position of confusion. He didn't map the collective unconscious from a place of strength. He mapped it from a place of vulnerability. His greatest work was born from his greatest crisis. And your greatest work, the life that's trying to emerge through you right now, it will be born the same way. Not from having all the answers, but from being brave enough to live inside the questions. So if you're in the dark right now, if you can't see the path, if every plan feels hollow and every certainty has crumbled, do not panic. You are not failing. You are fermenting. You are in the cocoon. And the cocoon from the outside looks like nothing is happening. But inside, everything is being restructured. Trust the process, even when, especially when, you can't see where it's going. Now let's go deeper. Because there is a mechanism at the heart of this transformation that Jung spent decades studying. And once you understand it, everything else clicks into place. Jung noticed that the psyche speaks in a language that the conscious mind rarely understands. It speaks in images, symbols, feelings, dreams, and synchronicities. And it speaks most loudly during periods of transition. Have you noticed your dreams becoming more vivid lately? More strange? More intense? More memorable? Have you been having recurring images or themes? Water falling, houses with hidden rooms, being chased, flying, encountering animals? These are not random. These are communiques from the unconscious. They are the psyche's way of telling you what's happening below the surface. Jung took dreams more seriously than perhaps any psychologist in history. He said the dream is a small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. He believed that dreams were not just the brain processing information. They were messages from the self, direct communications from the deepest layer of your being, offering guidance that your waking mind could never produce on its own. And during a transformation like the one you're going through, dreams become especially important. They are the psyche's attempt to show you the map, not the external map, not the career plan or the relationship strategy, but the internal map, the map of your becoming. Pay attention to them. Write them down when you wake, not to interpret them rigidly, not to look up symbols in some dictionary, but to sit with them, to let them speak to you in their own language, to feel their texture, their mood, their emotion. The unconscious is not random, it is wise, and it is trying to help you. But dreams are not the only way the unconscious speaks. There is another phenomenon that Jung considered one of the most profound mysteries of human experience: synchronicity. Synchronicity is the meaningful coincidence that cannot be explained by cause and effect. You think of someone and they call. You struggle with a question and a book falls open to the exact page. You make a decision and the world rearranges itself to support you in ways that feel almost orchestrated. Jung did not see these as accidents. He saw them as evidence that the inner and outer worlds are connected in ways that rational thinking cannot account for. He believed that when a person is in alignment with their individuation process, when they are moving toward their true self, synchronicities increase. The universe, or the collective unconscious, or whatever you want to call it, begins to cooperate. And I want to ask you something. Have you been noticing more of these lately? Small coincidences that feel too perfect to be random. Conversations that seem to answer questions you hadn't spoken aloud. People appearing in your life at exactly the moment you needed them. If so, you are not imagining it. According to Jung, these are signs that you are on the right path. Not the easy path, not the comfortable path, but the right one. The path your psyche has been preparing you for all along. And here is the delicate truth that Jung understood better than anyone. You cannot force synchronicity. You cannot manufacture it. You can only create the conditions for it by living honestly, by following the thread of your own becoming, by saying yes to the transformation even when every fiber of your conditioning screams no. The more you align with the self, the more the world aligns with you. Not in some magical wishful thinking way, but in the deep structural way that Jung spent his life documenting. The inner and outer are mirrors. Change one and the other follows. So pay attention, not just to your dreams, but to your waking life. Notice what keeps showing up. Notice what won't leave you alone. Notice the patterns, the repetitions, the strange echoes. Your psyche is trying to show you something. And all you have to do is look. I want to take you somewhere now that might feel uncomfortable. But it's necessary. Because this transformation, this magnificent becoming that's happening inside you, it requires something that our culture almost never talks about. It requires grief. Not just grief for who you were. We've already touched on that. But grief for the time you lost. Grief for the years you spent living someone else's script. Grief for the dreams you buried because they weren't practical. Grief for the relationships you maintained out of obligation rather than love. Grief for the silence you kept when your soul was screaming. This grief is real, and it can hit you like a wave when you're in the middle of transformation. Because as you begin to wake up, as the fog of the old life starts to clear, you see with painful clarity how much of your life was lived on autopilot. How many decisions were made from fear rather than truth? How many years were spent performing the role rather than living a life? And the grief can be overwhelming. It can make you bitter if you let it. It can make you resentful. It can send you spiraling into regret so deep that you lose the very momentum that started this awakening in the first place. But Jung offers something extraordinary here. He said that grief properly held, is not a dead end. It is a doorway. It is the psyche's way of composting the old life into fertile ground for the new. Every tear you shed for the unlived life is watering the soil of the life that's coming. Every moment of honest reckoning with the past is clearing space for the future. The key word is honest. Not dramatic, not performative, not the kind of grief that becomes a new identity. I am the person who wasted my life. That's just another mask, another way of avoiding the present moment. True grief is quiet. It moves through you like weather. It moves through you like weather. It comes, it soaks you, and it passes. And in its wake, something is cleaner. Something is more ready. Jung would say, don't rush past the grief. Don't skip it. Don't try to jump straight to the new life without mourning the old one. Because if you do, the old life will haunt you. It will show up as bitterness, as self-sabotage, as a nagging sense that you don't deserve the good things coming your way. Mourn it. Mourn the time. Mourn the lost possibilities. And then gently, firmly turn your face toward what's ahead. Because what's ahead is extraordinary. And the grief, once it has passed through you, will leave behind a clarity and a determination that nothing else can provide. You are not starting over. You are starting from a place of depth, of experience, of hard-won wisdom. And that is worth more than any head start. Now, there's a particular moment in the transformation process that I want to name, because if you've reached this point, you've probably already experienced it, and you might not have understood what it was. It's the moment when the universe tests you, when everything seems to conspire to pull you back to the old life. You make a bold decision and immediately face an obstacle. You set a boundary, and someone reacts with fury. You take a step toward your truth, and suddenly doubt floods in so thick you can barely breathe. You start to believe in yourself, and someone or something shows up to remind you of every reason you shouldn't. This is not punishment. This is not proof that you're on the wrong path. In Jungian terms, this is the guardian of the threshold, and it appears in every myth, every hero's journey, every story of transformation ever told. The guardian's job is not to stop you. Its job is to test whether you're ready, to make sure that the person crossing the threshold is strong enough to handle what's on the other side. Think of it as a doorman who asks for credentials, not to turn you away, but to ensure you've done the work. And the work, in this case, is commitment. Not commitment to a plan, because the plan will change 100 times. Commitment to yourself. Commitment to the process. Commitment to the truth that your soul is whispering even when everything around you is shouting the opposite. Jung said that the greatest and most important problems of life are fundamentally insoluble. They cannot be solved. They can only be outgrown. And this moment, this test, this resistance you're facing, it is not a problem to be solved. It is a threshold to be outgrown. You outgrow it by not turning back, by feeling the fear and continuing forward, by letting the doubt wash over you without letting it wash you away, by saying, yes, I'm terrified, and yes, I'm going anyway. That is the moment. That is the crossing, not the dramatic leap, not the grand gesture, but the quiet, stubborn, sometimes trembling decision to keep going when every comfortable part of you wants to retreat. And once you cross, once you truly cross, something shifts permanently. The world doesn't suddenly become easy, but you become different within it, steadier, clearer, more rooted in something that external circumstances can't shake. You know who you are, not because someone told you, but because you chose yourself, and you chose yourself, and you chose yourself at the exact moment when it was hardest to do so. That is what Jung meant by individuation. not a destination, a commitment, an ongoing, daily, sometimes hourly commitment to being real in a world that rewards being fake. Let me tell you about another piece of the puzzle, one that Jung considered essential and that our culture almost entirely ignores. The anima and animus. In every person, according to Jung, there exists an inner counterpart. In a man, this is the anima, the inner feminine. In a woman, it is the animus, the inner masculine. And this inner figure is not just a concept, it is alive. It has moods, opinions, desires. It shows up in your dreams, your attractions, your creative impulses, your deepest longings. And during a transformation like yours, this inner figure becomes extremely active. Have you noticed a shift in what you're drawn to? A new sensitivity you didn't used to have? A creative impulse that seems to come from somewhere you don't fully recognize? A longing for connection that goes beyond the physical, a desire to be truly seen, truly known, truly met at the level of the soul? That is the anima or animus stirring, and it is one of the most powerful forces in the human psyche. Jung said that integrating this inner figure is one of the most important tasks of individuation, because without it, you're incomplete. You are operating on half your psychic energy. The man who has no relationship with his anima is cut off from his feeling, his intuition, his capacity for depth. The woman who has no relationship with her animus is cut off from her discernment, her assertiveness, her capacity for directed action. And here's where it gets personal. Many of the problems in your outer relationships, the patterns that keep repeating, the disappointments, the misunderstandings, the feeling of never being fully met, these are often reflections of your relationship with this inner figure. When the anima or animus is neglected, it tends to be projected onto other people. You fall in love with someone not because of who they actually are, but because they carry the image of your inner counterpart. You expect them to complete you, to provide the feeling of wholeness that can only come from within. And inevitably, painfully, they fail. Not because they're wrong for you, but because no external person can fulfill an internal need. The transformation you're going through right now is partly about this. It is about withdrawing the projection, about recognizing that the longing you feel is not just for another person. It is for yourself. What are parts of yourself that you have not yet claimed? And as you begin to integrate this inner figure, something remarkable happens. Your outer relationships begin to change. You attract differently. You love differently. You stop looking for someone to complete you because you are finally becoming complete on your own. And from that completeness, you can meet another person not from need, but from fullness. Not from desperation, but from choice. This is what Jung called the sacred marriage. Not the wedding in the church, but the wedding in the church. But the wedding inside the psyche. The union of conscious and unconscious. The integration of opposite forces within yourself. And when this marriage happens, even partially, even imperfectly, the quality of your life shifts at every level. So if you're in a period of relationship upheaval right now, if things are changing in ways you didn't expect, consider this. It might not be about them. It might be about you. It might be about the inner union that is trying to take place. And the outer disruption might be the necessary catalyst for that inner reconciliation. Let that sink in, because it could change everything. Now I want to talk about something that makes this entire process real and practical. Because it's one thing to understand transformation intellectually. It's another to live it in the messiness of everyday life. Jung said, the shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. And he meant it. Your transformation will not look like anyone else's. It will not follow a script. It will not match the timeline of any book or program or spiritual teacher. But there are certain practices, certain ways of engaging with this process that Jung found to be universally helpful. and I want to share them with you now, not as rules, but as invitations. The first is this: create space for the inner life every single day. This might be meditation. It might be journaling. It might be walking in silence. It might be sitting in a dark room and simply breathing. The form doesn't matter. What matters is that you deliberately create a container for the unconscious to speak, because it will speak. It is always speaking, but you can only hear it when you stop drowning it out with noise, activity, distraction. Jung himself had a daily practice of what he called active imagination. He would sit quietly, let images arise from the unconscious, and engage with them as if they were real. He would talk to them, listen to them, draw them. He treated the figures of his inner world with the same respect he gave to people in his outer world. And through this practice, he accessed depths of wisdom that his conscious mind could never have produced alone. You don't need to do exactly what Jung did, but you do need some version of it, some regular, deliberate engagement with your inner world, because the transformation that's happening to you is happening inside, and if you don't create space to meet it, it will express itself in less conscious ways, as anxiety, as compulsive behavior, as physical symptoms, as sudden emotional eruptions that seem to come from nowhere. Give it space. Give it attention. Give it your time. This is not self-indulgence. This is the most important work you can do right now. The second practice is to follow what Jung called the inferior function. Here's what that means. Everyone has a dominant way of engaging with the world, thinking, feeling, sensing, or intuiting. Your dominant function is your strength. It's what comes naturally. But your inferior function, the one you've neglected, the one that feels awkward and underdeveloped, that is where growth lives. If you're a natural thinker, your growth edge is in feeling, in letting yourself be moved, in making decisions from the heart. If you're a natural feeler, your growth edge is in thinking, in bringing structure and clarity to your emotional world. If you're a practical sensory person, your growth edge is in intuition, in trusting what can't be measured. And if you're a natural intuitive, your growth edge is in sensing, in being present to the physical, concrete world. The inferior function feels clumsy, it feels childish, it feels embarrassing. And that's exactly why most people avoid it. But Jung was adamant. The inferior function is the doorway to the unconscious. It is where the treasure is hidden, and in a period of transformation, it often begins to assert itself whether you want it to or not. So if you suddenly become more emotional than usual, more dreamy, more restless, more physical, more practical, more abstract, pay attention. Your psyche is developing a capacity that has been dormant, and while it feels disorienting, it is precisely what's needed for your wholeness. Don't resist it. Lean into it. Follow the awkwardness. Follow the unfamiliar. That is where the new you is being built. The third practice, and perhaps the most important, is honesty. Radical, uncomfortable, sometimes devastating honesty with yourself. Not honesty as performance. Not the kind of honesty that posts vulnerably on social media for validation, but the private inner honesty that looks at your life and asks the hard questions. Where am I pretending? Where am I performing? What am I afraid to admit? What do I want that I've never allowed myself to want? What would I do if no one was watching, if no one would judge, if no one would leave? Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And he's right. The distractions available to us are endless. Social media, entertainment, substances, busyness, drama, outrage, all of it designed, whether intentionally or not, to keep you from the one encounter that matters most, the encounter with yourself. But you can't transform without that encounter. You can't become whole while parts of you remain hidden. You can't step into your real life while you're still lying about who you are. So be honest, not to anyone else if you're not ready for that, but to yourself, in the journal, in the mirror, in the 3 a.m. darkness when you can't sleep. Tell yourself the truth, because the truth, as brutal as it sometimes is the only foundation strong enough to hold the life you're building. There's something else Jung recognized about people in the midst of transformation, something that can be deeply comforting if you understand it. He noticed that the psyche has a natural tendency toward wholeness. Left to its own devices, given the right conditions, the psyche will heal itself. It will move toward integration. It will seek out what's missing and try to bring it into consciousness. Jung called this the transcendent function, and it operates like a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind. When you're in conflict, when you're torn between the old and the new, when you feel pulled in two directions, the transcendent function is working to create a third option. A synthesis, a way forward that includes both sides of the conflict, but transcends them both. And this is the key. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to force a resolution. You have to hold the tension. That's it. Hold the opposing forces within you without choosing one side or the other, without rushing to resolve the conflict, without numbing the discomfort. Jung said, the greater the tension, the greater the potential. And he meant this literally. The more intense the inner conflict, the more psychic energy is available for transformation. Every time you feel torn apart, you are actually being prepared for a breakthrough. The tension is not the problem, it is the engine. Think of it like a bow and arrow. The further back you pull the string, the more tension you create, and the further the arrow will fly. Your life right now, this period of stretching, of discomfort, of feeling pulled in every direction, this is the string being drawn back. And when the moment comes, when the psyche is ready, when the transcendent function has done its work, the release will propel you forward with a force that years of planning and striving could never match. So hold the tension. Don't collapse into one side. Don't numb it. Don't rush it. The breakthrough is being prepared in the dark, in the depths you cannot see. And it will arrive not when you demand it, but when you are ready to receive it. And you are closer to ready than you think. Now I want to speak directly to something you might be experiencing right now, this moment, this very day. You might be sitting in a life that looks nothing like what you imagined. The career you planned didn't unfold the way you thought. The relationship you invested everything in has changed or ended. The identity you built so carefully has started to crack, and you feel like you're running out of time. That feeling, that urgency, that ticking clock in the background of every thought, I want to address it head on, because it's both true and misleading at the same time. It's true that something is urgent. Your soul is urgent. The self is urgent. The transformation pressing against the walls of your current life will not wait forever. There are windows, there are seasons, there are moments when the psyche is ripe for change. And if you miss them, they don't always come back the same way. But here's where the misleading part comes in. The urgency is not about external deadlines. It's not about age. It's not about age. It's not about erjujbi by 30 or 40 or 50. It's not about catching up to other people or meeting some invisible standard of success. The urgency is about alignment. It's about the distance between who you're living as and who you actually are. The wider that gap, the more urgent the pressure feels. And the pressure isn't telling you to hurry up and achieve something. It's telling you to stop, turn inward, and finally become honest about what your soul requires. Jung himself didn't begin his most important work until he was in his late 30s. His confrontation with the unconscious, the period that would produce his greatest insights, began when he was already established, already successful by conventional measures, and it required him to risk everything, his reputation, his certainty, his comfort to follow the inner call. He didn't arrive at wholeness through speed. He arrived through depth. And so will you. So release the pressure of the clock. Not the urgency of the soul, keep that, but the artificial pressure of comparison, of timelines, of should-haves. You are not behind. You are exactly where the process needs you to be. And the fact that you feel the urgency at all is proof that the transformation is already underway. You didn't miss your window. The window is open right now. That's why you're here. That's why these words are landing in your chest the way they are. That's why something inside you is nodding along, recognizing itself in every sentence. This is your moment, not because the calendar says so, but because your soul says so. And your soul has never been wrong. There is one more thing I want to share with you, and it might be the most important thing of all. Jung spent his entire life studying the process of becoming whole. He mapped the archetypes, explored the shadow, documented the stages of individuation, and analyzed thousands of dreams. But at the end of his life, when asked what he had learned, his answer was not what you might expect. He didn't talk about theories. He didn't reference his books. He didn't list his achievements. He talked about something simpler, something deeper, something that all the theory ultimately pointed toward. He talked about love, not romantic love, though that was part of it, not sentimental love, but something vaster, a fundamental orientation of the soul toward connection, toward meaning, toward the sacred in the ordinary. Jung said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." And in this simple statement is a diagnosis of everything that makes transformation so difficult and so necessary. Most of us have been living in the domain of power, power over our image, power over our outcomes, power over our emotions, control, management, performance. We have been running our lives like small empires, defending borders, projecting strength, accumulating resources, and all the while the soul has been starving. Because the soul does not run on power, it runs on love. And this transformation you're in, this upheaval, this cracking open, it is fundamentally a movement from power to love, from controlling your life to surrendering to it, from managing your image to revealing your truth, from building walls to opening doors. That is terrifying, because love makes you vulnerable. Love makes you visible. Love means you can be hurt, and you've been hurt before, which is exactly why you built the walls in the first place. But the walls that protected you then are imprisoning you now, and the transformation is asking you to take them down. Not all at once, not carelessly, but intentionally, brick by brick, starting with the walls around your own heart, the walls that keep you from feeling fully, from wanting fully, from living fully. Jung knew that this was the ultimate task, not intellectual understanding, though that helps, not psychological understanding, though that helps, not psychological insight, though that clears the way, but love, the willingness to meet yourself, all of yourself, every shadow, every wound, every forgotten dream, with the same tenderness you would offer a child, because that's what the self ultimately is. It is not a concept. It is not a destination. It is the experience of being fully, deeply, unconditionally at home in your own being. It is the moment when you stop fighting yourself and start embracing yourself. It is the end of the war between who you are and who you think you should be. And that end, that peace, that arrival, it is not somewhere in the future. It is available right now, in this breath, In this moment of recognition, in this choice to stop running and start being, your time is now. Not because the world is ready for you, though it is. Not because the stars are aligned, though perhaps they are. But because you are ready. Because the stirring in your chest has become too loud to ignore. Because the old coat has become too tight to wear. Because the self has been waiting long enough, and it's not waiting for a better version of you. It's waiting for the real version. The one who has been here all along, beneath the masks, beneath the compromises, beneath the years of performing someone else's idea of a life. You are that person. You have always been that person. And everything you've been through, every loss, every confusion, every dark night, every moment of doubt, it was all preparation. All of it was bringing you to this exact point, this threshold, this crossing. So cross it, not perfectly, not with certainty, not with a plan, but with the raw, trembling, magnificent courage of someone who has finally decided to live their own life. Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart." Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. You are awaking right now, in this moment, with every word that has resonated, with every truth that has landed, with every part of you that has said, yes, this, finally. This is your time, not tomorrow, not someday, now. And the person you are becoming, they are extraordinary. Not because they have all the answers, but because they have all the answers, but because they have the courage to live the questions, to stand at the threshold and say, I don't know what's next, but I'm going anyway. That is the bravest thing a human being can do, and you're doing it. So when you leave this video today, carry this with you. You are not broken. You are breaking open. You are not lost. You are being redirected. You are not lost. You are not falling apart. You are falling into yourself. And that self, the real one, the whole one, the one that Jung spent his life helping people find, it has been waiting for you with infinite patience and infinite love. Go to it. It's time. If this video touched something deep in you, I want to hear about it. Leave a comment. Tell me what stirred inside you while listening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is going through their own transformation and might feel alone in it. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and know this: you are not alone on this path. You never were. And the fact that you stayed until the end tells me something important about you. You are ready. Your time is now.